When did you move to Vermont?
We moved here full-time in 1979,
July.
but we bought the property in 1975 and then tried coming up summers to build the house.
And you built the house yourself and everything?
Yeah, and with help of friends.
Yeah. My dad, me and him were talking before I came down. He said that you got all the lumber from the land and everything.
We hauled trees off our property, and some of them came off from Grammy's uncle's place. He had a place near in the Berkshire Corinth line.
He's been there.
I know that, but I was okay. No, so we took the trees and hauled them to the mill in the Ford pickup, and that was a time when you had small sawmills around in the area. So we had Doug Lyford had a mill on the Berkshire Road. He still has that, but he doesn't run it too much. And Herb Chambers had a mill on the East Randolph Road. And Albert Morey had a mill near Washington Village. So I hauled to those mills like that, had them saw out the lumber to what we wanted and bring it back here and then build with that.
So how long did it take to like get the house livable?
Define livable. We moved up in '79, and we had a structure on the foundation that was here, which was 20 by 24 feet, and we had enough so you in the summertime we could live in there, but we didn't have the roof fully done, so we had an old pool cover at one point up over the roof until we got the roof closed in. So I guess it was livable in the summer of '79, but it became more livable over the years.
Yeah.
But it's it's warm in the winter and it's cool in the summer, so
Yeah.
and it's not finished. It may never be.
Did you guys ever have like farm, like animals or anything?
Yeah, well, 2 years we raised, bought a calf in the spring, raised it up, and I slaughtered it in the fall and had it butchered. We did that 2 years. 1 year we had 2 of them, and the other year we had 1. 1 year we had pigs, and I slaughtered those and had those butchered. And we had we had 2-3 dozen chickens. We had probably a couple dozen layers, and I think it was a dozen meat birds we did that year. So we had chickens probably first 10 or 12 years we were here. And then I got busy with other things, and so we got rid of those. We had a garden first few years, but it just seemed I was getting so busy with teaching and second job that it was hard to keep those things going.
For a stretch, you did like work on every like Mustang in the area.
I know we did a number of engine swaps on. Let's see, it was your father had. Later on, he had some different Fox Mustangs. He had a '79. And when he worked in Louisiana, he picked up an '84 and he drove an '86 down. And so we did a number of swaps on that. And then we had a Mercury Capri. I think that was an '83 or '4. We did an engine swap on that. And then more recently, I've been working with a fellow up in Barrie, and we've restored and modified a couple of '68 Mustangs. We did a '79 Trans Am, and now we're working on a '66 Fastback Mustang that he just got a couple months ago, and so that's all torn out, torn apart. The floors were bad, so we we're working on cutting out all the rust, and then when we get that done, we'll start putting all the good pieces back in. But the last one we did, which he was smart enough not to sell, the first '68 he sold, and he said he would never do that again. So we did another one. It took us 6 years. and we modified it. We started out with a 6-cylinder automatic. I built a 351 Cleveland for it, and we put in a 5-speed 9-inch Ford rear end. I made a serpentine belt system because the Cleveland didn't have that system, and that's what he wanted, so I made that. So that, yeah, we've been tied up with Mustangs for quite a few years.
So, like, have you been working on cars and, like, not car stuff, like, your whole life, or?
Pretty much. My father used to do a lot of work on his car, and that was a 1940 Ford sedan. And then when I got big enough, we would start helping with the routine maintenance. And then when we got our car, my brother and I shared a car during college. We did the maintenance on that, and we repainted that one. And pretty much ever since, I've been working on them and modifying them.
There's a lot of tinkering involved and
Yeah,
making your own kind of stuff.
In the work with the Mustangs, we've had to make some of our own parts, body parts, and we've modified some of the mechanical components and that type of stuff. It's fun to do. I like doing a little fabricating, building things. When we got up here, I bought a 72 Ford Bronco for $200. The body was all rusted out. I cut all the body off and I made a single seat in the middle and set it up for center steering. Put a 4-ton PTO winch on it and welded up a boom, and for 10-15 years I was drawing firewood off our land. Small tractor tires on it, so yeah, I like doing that kind of tinkering.
Huh. So, like, when it comes to blacksmithing, we have a saying that's need a tool, make a tool. So if we ever are in a situation, instead of going out and just buying something, we will make it ourselves. Do you experience that a lot?
I have made some tools that I needed. Remember, I had to change the inner tie rod on an Escort one time, and it did not have the right size wrench, so I used a piece of flat stock, cut it out, and shaped it so I could get the large nut off the inner tie rod end. That's one I remember offhand that I made. I know I've made some other. I'm trying to remember specific other ones along the way where I've made a tool to get the pinion nut off a differential. I've made a tool to clamp onto the yoke that's bolted on by the pinion nut. I made a tool to hold that so we could apply a lot of torque to the pinion nut to get it to break free. So yeah, along the way,
yeah,
I've done that.
So since you've been in Vermont, would you say that you've been one of the people that other people have come to help, like they've been reliant on you?
I've had people occasionally come. Quite often people call looking for Ford parts because I used to have a lot of them because we had stripped a number of cars. I don't have too many anymore, but I just had a fellow come last year. He was building a big mud rig and he needed a transfer case, and I happened to have one that he could use, so that's the kind of things that happen. And then I've had people call me and with a problem with the car, and tried to give them some help that way. I've had people call me when they were stuck nearby and needed to get pulled out, or I've got a backhoe and I've helped a couple of cases. One case across the road, the house was being sold and they had to do perk tests, and so I dug the holes for the perk tests for them. So yeah, various things like that you get called about.
All right.
And I think generally, since we live out in what would be considered a rural area, you find that a lot of people in rural areas make do with what they've got. I think in some cases, cars in particular, have become very electronically complex, and unless you do some studying, it becomes difficult to solve what may be a minor problem. But unless you do a lot of studying on this, and the internet's got a lot of good stuff up there about how to solve certain problems. But if people don't want to do it, then they're going to have to pay somebody. You know, a plumber today probably isn't even going to come to look at your house for less than $75. You know, we had an elbow start to leak in the basement, and I had the parts here, and you know, in a matter of a few minutes, I had it fixed. The leak was stopped. That would have been probably a minimum of $75 if you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I had the piece needed to fix it there, and it was like $5 item. So that's, and again, I think you live out away from where things are easily taken care of. You have to learn to deal more with that yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
we have quite often problems with the heavy snow. We get power outages.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be out here, you can either sit in the dark, or you can do things like get a generator
Yeah.
and learn how to use it safely,
Yeah.
and then be prepared for it. Most of our heat comes from wood, and that I can cut,
Yep.
and I can split, and so it saves money, and it gives us a source of heat if the power goes out, and I don't want to run the generator all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now we're heating a house, and I see the thermometer says it's 75 in here.
Yep.
And all I'm doing is I got the stove in the basement with heat directed to a grate in the floor, and I'm just heating with pieces of pallets that I've cut up,
Yeah.
3-4 at a time, put it in.
Just
About every
recycling
hour
all
or
the
so
wood.
I may throw some in, and that's almost free. So yeah, you do stuff like that, I think, when you're out here.
Yeah, making
And,
do with what you have.
And you know, and again, my generation is different from your generation.
Oh God, yeah.
What in terms of what we grew up through, and what we had to do, and what was available. So that makes a difference.